I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes. But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time, sometimes maybe more than you were.
Right.
I can't fault her for what she was given. But, look, as much as she was given, you can't tell me if that door would have swung the other way where she didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Come on, folks are still waiting for her to fall.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So, with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Everybody now has an opportunity to pull up their chair and have a seat.
Cheryl Miller has just shattered the silence and finally said what millions of frustrated fans have been thinking this entire time. And believe me, her words were explosive. She made it crystal clear Team USA never actually wanted Caitlin Clark on the roster, and the legendary Hall of Famer did not hold back one bit in explaining precisely why. As you can imagine, the entire internet absolutely erupted within minutes of her comments going public. Cheryl laid bare the ugly truth, exposing the internal politics, the rampant jealousy, and what she sees as a deliberate, calculated campaign to keep Caitlin firmly in her place. This is the hard-hitting reality check that so many people have been waiting for someone with credibility to deliver. But before we dive deep into Cheryl's bombshell statements, I have to know where you stand. Tell me right now in the comments. Do you genuinely believe Team USA is intentionally trying to hold Caitlin back? Or do you think this is all just a series of unfortunate coincidences? I seriously need to hear your take on this whole situation.
Sky's the limit for her. To be around her, just talk about the type of person she is and how much she loves the game.
I'm going to be honest because it needs to be said. I can relate to that young lady, and I felt for her. I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be a black woman and hated because of my color.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this young lady, I don't want to use hate, but despised. And people just having, she brought some on herself a little bit because she's cocky for a good reason.
Confident.
And I love that about her. But to watch the dynamics and the media, they had their narrative. And I was pleased and proud to see the narrative.
Cheryl Miller didn't just whisper her thoughts. She didn't dance around the subject or hint at what she was thinking. And she certainly didn't use that carefully crafted, soulless corporate speak designed to avoid ruffling any feathers. No, she went on the record, loud and clear, and said exactly what millions of basketball fans have been screaming into the void for months on end. Caitlin Clark is being deliberately held back, not by her own performance, but by the very people and institutions that should be celebrating her as a generational talent. And you have to understand, when a voice like Cheryl Miller speaks, people stop and listen. This isn't just some random commentator fishing for clicks or trying to stir up controversy. This is a true basketball icon, a Hall of Famer, someone who knows from personal experience exactly what it's like to be the biggest name in women's basketball and face a wall of resistance because of it. Cheryl's words were both direct and absolutely devastating. She said, and I quote, "Caitlin Clark changed basketball, and that is exactly why they fear her." Just let that statement sink in for a moment. It's not that they're just jealous of her, or that they don't understand her impact. The word she used was fear. They fear what she represents. They fear how unbelievably quickly she rose to global stardom. They fear that she didn't follow their pre-approved script or come up through their established system. And perhaps most importantly, they fear that she, a single player, has become bigger than the institution itself.
You recently coached the WNBA All-Star game. You spent some time with Caitlin Clark.
From the very first day she stepped onto a professional court, Caitlin brought something to women's basketball that the sport had been desperately lacking for years. Genuine mainstream attention. We're talking about ratings that leagues and TV executives can only dream about. She brought sold-out arenas, not just for home games, but for away games, creating an electric atmosphere everywhere she went. She brought entire families who had never ever watched a WNBA game in their lives to tune in just to see for themselves what all the incredible hype was about. In a matter of weeks, she single-handedly made women's basketball appointment viewing for millions of people across the globe. And what did she get in return for this unprecedented impact? a relentless barrage of hard fouls with little to no consequences for the offenders. She got suspicious and frankly bizarre coaching rotations where she'd inexplicably get benched at the most crucial moments of a game. She received zero protection from officials when opponents were clearly and repeatedly targeting her. There was the infamous elbow incident that the league somehow miraculously didn't consider flagrant, and all along the way, all we heard were excuse after excuse after excuse.
The fact that if I'm insecure, if I've got my own mental issues going on, who do I talk to? I don't regret being born when I was.
Right.
I'm in the right place at the right time. It's just been fascinating to watch these young ladies come up and now take the baton and take it to a different level.
She handled it in a graceful way as well. Some of your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
Cheryl Miller finally had the courage to say what absolutely nobody inside the Team USA bubble dared to admit publicly. They don't want Caitlyn on the Olympic team because her star power completely overshadows everyone else. And this wasn't just speculation or her reading between the lines. Cheryl laid it out as plain as day. Every single time a young superstar emerges and threatens the established hierarchy, and every time someone becomes bigger than the very system that's supposed to contain them, that system inevitably pushes back. It's not even personal, she explained, it's institutional. And Caitlin Clark didn't just become big. At 22 years old, she became the global face of basketball. That is the threat. That is precisely what makes the old guard so deeply uncomfortable. According to Cheryl, this isn't just her opinion. This is a diagnosis based on years and years of behavior she has personally witnessed throughout her own legendary career and continues to see play out today. The pattern is painfully consistent. Team USA, just like so many other established organizations, operates with a very specific, unspoken hierarchy. There's an order to things. Rookies are expected to pay their dues, while veterans are given preferential treatment. You are supposed to earn your spot gradually, by working your way up through their system. But Caitlyn, she blew past all of that. She arrived on the scene already famous, already influential, and already carrying more cultural weight and significance than players who'd been in the league for a decade. And that kind of thing doesn't just disrupt the natural order, it shatters, and that level of disruption always makes people defensive.
In a graceful way as well. Some of your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
Right.
How can you separate the two? It's kind of hard, right?
And I used Jax, you're absolutely right. And I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes. But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time, sometimes maybe more than you were.
Right.
I can't fault her for what she was given. But, look, as much as she was given, you can't tell me if that door would have swung the other way where she didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Come on, folks are still waiting for her to fall.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So, with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Cheryl pointed out something absolutely crucial that many fans have noticed, but couldn't quite put into words. Team USA is intrinsically connected to the exact same political games we see playing out day after day in the WNBA. Favoritism is real. Power circles are real. Veteran loyalty is absolutely real. There are deep-seated inside politics that often determine who gets the big opportunities and who gets left behind. And in that kind of environment, there's very little room for a new star who wasn't built and molded by their system. Think about it. Caitlyn wasn't developed through the USA basketball youth programs. She didn't come up through their designated pipeline. She didn't follow their predetermined, carefully managed path to stardom. She came roaring out of Iowa with her own massive, pre-existing fan base, her own blinding spotlight already shining on her, and her own incredible narrative already written. That kind of independence threatened the people who were used to controlling those narratives. And here's where Cheryl really dropped the hammer. She stated that Team USA had already made up its mind about Caitlyn months before any official roster discussions even happened. The game plan, she claims, was clear from the very beginning: protect the veterans, keep the old guard as the public face of the program, and under no circumstances do you let someone new get the keys to the kingdom. Caitlin Clark was never going to be welcomed with open arms. She was going to be managed, controlled, kept quiet, and handled like a problem that needed to be solved, rather than a generational talent that should be celebrated. But Caitlin didn't play by those unspoken rules. She just played basketball, the exact same way the entire world fell in love with her, and that's when things got incredibly complicated for the Team USA leadership. Cheryl exposed what she believes is their real, underlying fear. They were absolutely terrified that Caitlin would become the undisputed star of Team USA before the Olympics even started. Just imagine that for a second. A 22-year-old player potentially outdrawing 10-year veterans in both TV ratings and media attention. A single athlete generating more buzz, more viral highlights, and more discussion than the entire rest of the roster combined. More social media engagement, more merchandise sales, more mainstream media coverage. Team USA wasn't ready for that reality, and their system certainly wasn't designed to accommodate it. So instead of embracing this phenomenon and building the program around their most marketable and talented player, they pushed back, and the fans noticed everything. The cold body language from certain teammates, the weird rotations that made absolutely no basketball sense, the unnecessary hard fouls that went uncalled or were ridiculously downgraded to common fouls when they were obvious flagrant. They noticed the constant criticism she faced for things that other players were actively praised for doing. The double standards were so glaring they were impossible to ignore. Cheryl said something that just hit so hard: you don't treat the most impactful young player in basketball like this unless you're trying to send a message. And what's that message? Stay in your lane, know your place, don't climb the ladder too fast, don't you dare outshine the people we've already decided are supposed to be the faces of this program. Don't disrupt the hierarchy we've spent years carefully building. But Caitlin just kept climbing anyway. Every single game brought another incredible performance, another impossible shot from 30 feet out that somehow went in, another mind-bending no-look pass that defied physics. Every arena sold out, every highlight went viral and dominated social media for days. And with each step she took higher, the resistance just seemed to intensify. Cheryl revealed what so many suspected but few in the media would say publicly. Caitlin Clark is being punished for being great, not for being a difficult teammate, not for being problematic, not for breaking rules or causing drama. She is being punished for being undeniably, historically, generationally great at the game of basketball. And that kind of greatness makes people uncomfortable when it doesn't fit neatly into their predetermined plans. Millions of fans felt this in their gut throughout the entire season. Parents watching with their kids felt it. Young girls who look up to Caitlin as a hero felt it. Even NBA players noticed and started tweeting about the obvious targeting and the shocking lack of protection she was receiving. But until now, no one from inside the system, no one with the unimpeachable credibility and platform of Cheryl Miller, had actually said it out loud. That's what makes this moment so incredibly significant. Then Cheryl addressed the jersey number controversy, which on the surface seems petty but in reality represents something much, much deeper. She said Team USA handled it horribly. Instead of having a simple, respectful conversation with Caitlin about the situation, instead of making her feel valued and finding a solution that worked for everyone, they made it look like she was being difficult for wanting something every single athlete wants: consistency and respect. They made her feel like an inconvenience, as if she were causing problems by having the audacity to care about the number she's worn her entire career, and that has become synonymous with her global brand. That's when fans absolutely lost their minds. Millions of them, because it confirmed what they'd been seeing all along. This wasn't about logistics or policies or standard procedures. This was about putting Caitlin in her place. It was about reminding her that she doesn't run things. They do. It was about asserting control over someone who had become far too powerful, far too quickly, and Cheryl called it out for exactly what it was. The third bombshell Cheryl dropped was that Team USA was completely divided internally about Clark. Some coaches desperately wanted her on the roster and recognized her immense value. Others didn't want her taking the spotlight away from the established players. Some teammates supported her and welcomed the massive attention she brought to the sport. Others resented the media focus constantly being on one person instead of the collective. Some executives loved the ratings boost and the new sponsor interest. Others hated the disruption and preferred the program to just operate the way it always had. A divided room, a rising superstar, and a massive spotlight that nobody could escape created the absolute perfect storm for dysfunction. This was never about basketball. This was pure, unadulterated politics. And Cheryl's voice reportedly cracked with emotion when she said, "Caitlin Clark plays the game the right way, and she is being punished for it." That single line resonated across the entire basketball community because it so perfectly captured the sheer absurdity and injustice of the situation. Here is a player who does everything you could possibly want. She works incredibly hard. She makes her teammates better. She handles her media responsibilities with professionalism and grace. She shows up ready to compete every single game. She doesn't create off-court drama. She represents the sport beautifully, and somehow she's the one being treated like a problem. Cheryl emphasized that this pattern extended far beyond just the Team USA decisions. This was about the entire WNBA season. The hard fouls that never resulted in suspensions for the offenders. The shoves that were called incidental contact when they were clearly intentional. The constant targeting that officials somehow never seemed to notice despite it being obvious to everyone watching on television. The blatant disrespect from opponents who felt comfortable taking cheap shots because they knew there would be no real consequences. The jealousy that manifested itself in passive-aggressive comments during post-game interviews. The fake narratives about her being overrated or only successful because of favorable officiating or weak competition, and through all of it, there was a deafening silence from the people in positions of power who should have spoken up to defend her. The WNBA didn't protect her adequately. Team USA didn't prioritize her, and certain media members actively tried to diminish her historic accomplishment. Cheryl Miller watched all of this unfold, and finally decided that enough was enough. Someone with real credibility needed to call it what it was. Someone who understood the complex politics of women's basketball from the inside needed to expose the truth. What makes Cheryl's comments so uniquely powerful is that she's been right where Caitlin is now. In her era, she was the biggest name in women's basketball. She faced her own version of resistance and jealousy and people trying to keep her in her place. She understands the unique crushing pressure that comes with being the face of an entire sport. She knows what it feels like when your own success makes other people deeply uncomfortable, and she is not going to stand by silently while she watches history repeat itself with Caitlin Clark. Cheryl also addressed the broader context that many casual fans might not fully grasp. She talked about how vastly different the pressure is for this generation compared to when she played. The relentless social media scrutiny, the brand responsibilities, the massive financial expectations, the constant public commentary, the immense mental health challenges of being under a microscope. She said today's players are dealing with things her generation never even had to imagine, and that makes what Caitlin has accomplished even more impressive. But instead of that pressure being acknowledged and support being provided, Caitlin faced additional obstacles that were completely unnecessary and entirely political. Cheryl made it clear that the resistance Caitlin encountered had absolutely nothing to do with her ability or her character. It was purely about people protecting their own positions, maintaining their control, and flat out refusing to adapt to a changing landscape where a new star had emerged who was bigger than they were comfortable with. The reaction to Cheryl's comments was immediate and absolutely massive. Social media exploded with people expressing their relief that finally, someone with real credibility was saying what they'd all been thinking. Former players started speaking up with their own observations that confirmed Cheryl's point. Media members who had been hesitant to rock the boat suddenly felt more comfortable discussing the obvious politics at play, and the fans who had felt gaslit for months, being told they were just imagining the targeting and disrespect, finally felt validated. In a telling move, Team USA officials have been noticeably silent in response to Cheryl's comments. When someone of Cheryl Miller's stature makes allegations this serious, you would expect an immediate and forceful denial if they weren't true. The silence suggests there's a painful truth to what she's saying, and they're now scrambling to figure out how to manage the public relations damage without admitting any fault. So there you have it. Cheryl Miller said what needed to be said, and the basketball world is still reeling from the fallout. Caitlin Clark deserves so much better than the treatment she's received, and thanks to a legend speaking truth to power, now everyone knows it. If you appreciate someone finally standing up and telling it like it is, smash that like button and make sure you subscribe for more honest basketball coverage. What is your reaction to Cheryl's explosive comments? Drop it in the comments below.